We're in the final hours leading up to the CCP's Fourth Plenum. Zhang Youxia has openly challenged Xi Jinping. A major drama unfolded in Beijing in the last 24 hours. Yesterday, Friday, a defense ministry spokesman held a presser and announced that 9 senior military officials, including vice chairman of the CMC, He Weidong, has been expelled from both the party and the military for serious job-related crimes. Their cases have been handed over to military prosecutors for indictment. Now, this announcement confirmed some of the names from a long list of missing PLA generals. Of the 9 generals, except for 1, the other 8 are all members of the Central Committee. So this announcement is extremely unsettling for 5 reasons. The first one is the massive scale. Okay, it wasn't just 1 or 2 generals. 9 full generals being removed in a single day due to serious crimes is unprecedented in the history of the PLA. And the announcement didn't specify the crimes, but the wording was damning and severe. Second unusual quality of this event is the timing. Now, people usually expect this kind of announcement being made after the Fourth Plenum as the result of the meeting, but it was announced on the last working day before the plenum. And the defense minister was basically saying that the decision to remove the 9 generals from the military and from the party had already been approved by the leadership and the Central Military Commission and would be endorsed at the plenum, making it look like a preemptive political move and a stick warning to the allies of the 9 generals. And then third is the messenger. It was announced by the defense ministry, which is part of the state council, a government apparatus, not a party organ. However, the purge involves some of the highest-ranking military leaders and He Weidong, who was a Politburo member. So usually announcements like this come from the party's discipline inspection commission or the general office of the party's central commission, definitely not defense ministry. Number 4, the president. Now, it's the first time the PLA has removed its vice chairman of the CMC, a sitting one. There were only 2 presidents where active CMC vice chairmen were ousted. The first one was General Lin Biao, Mao's chosen heir, who died in a plane crash in Mongolia in 1971 or 1972, while fleeing to the Soviet Union. And the second was former party chief Zhao Ziyang, who was also CMC vice chairman under Deng Xiaoping. And Zhao was removed because he opposed using force to crack down on the student movement in 1989. Zhao Ziyang wasn't a military leader, and his vice chairmanship was purely symbolic. And so He Weidong's purging marks the first time the PLA has ever removed a sitting vice chairman. And number 5, the most shocking part of this development is that all 9 generals are Xi Jinping's loyalists, without exception. And they're not just his loyalists, they are the pillars of the Xi faction. They are his handpicked, diehard loyalists. Let me tell you who they are so you understand the scale of this. Okay, so first on the list is Vice Chairman He Weidong. He is the highest ranking among them. He had been rumored to be sacked since March when he went missing. He was Xi Jinping's right-hand man in the military, someone Xi had fast-tracked through every rule and rank. Now, 3 years later, he has fallen from grace, becoming the shortest-serving CMC vice chairman and Politburo member. So his downfall absolutely humiliates not just himself, but Xi Jinping. And so if He is Xi's right-hand man, then Miao Hua is Xi Jinping's left-hand man. From 2017 to 2024, for 7 years, Miao was Xi's chief political commissar, especially playing the role of a personnel boss responsible for promoting senior officers and ensuring ideological loyalty. Now, like He Weidong, Miao Hua came from Xi Jinping's old base, the old 31st Group Army in Fujian. Xi's original plan, reportedly, was to have He Weidong succeed Zhang Youxia as first CMC vice chairman and Miao Hua as the second vice chairman. So forming a triangle of absolute control. Now Xi Jinping's both hands have been chopped off. Next on the list is General He Hongjun. I don't know if you remember, July last year, that's when He was promoted to a full general and also to be the executive deputy director of the political department. So he was basically groomed to replace Miao Hua to lead the political department and personnel. This promotion was so important to Xi Jinping that he held a special ceremony just for him. And Xi Jinping likely planned, to use him to replace Miao Hua when Miao Hua moves up. But Miao fell, and soon after, He Hongjun followed. So the two men in charge of political loyalty and personnel are now both gone. The next is Wang Xiubing, another fallen general who also came from Xi Jinping's old base, the 31st Group Army in Fujian. Now, Wang rose fast from commander of the 80th Group Army to deputy commander of the Eastern Theater, then commander of the Southern Theater, and finally deputy head of the Joint Operations Center. Next on the list is someone you're familiar with. This is General Lin Xiangyang, the man who replaced He Weidong to be the commander of the Eastern Theater. He had commanded 3 different group armies, the 31st, the 47th, and the 72nd, a rare feat. And he participated in two of Xi Jinping's military parades, one in 2015 and one in 2017. And he rose from lieutenant general to full general in just 14 months, the fastest promotion ever. And Xi Jinping counted on General Lin to lead the Eastern Theater Command, the main force for any Taiwan operations. But before any war began, Lin fell. The next on the list is Qin Shutong. So Qin Shutong, like Miao Hua, had once been political chief of the 31st Group Army. So he was promoted under Miao's watch. So he was meant to be Xi Jinping's trusted political inspector in the army. So when Miao went down, Qin followed. Next is Yuan Huazhi. Now, Yuan Huazhi had also been Miao's subordinate in the Navy. He was promoted on Miao's recommendation. So when the mentor fell, the protege fell too. Wang Houbing's fall hits even harder. He is the 4th Rocket Force commander to be purged in, I think, the past, 2 to 3 years. Now, the Rocket Force is Xi Jinping's crown jewel, responsible for China's nuclear and missile arsenal, key to both Taiwan operation and U.S. deterrence. But this elite branch has now lost 4 consecutive commanders under Xi. And they're not just consecutive, it's only been around for 10 years. So it only has had 4 commanders, but they're all gone. So think about it. 1 mistake is forgivable, 2 understandable, 3 disastrous, but 4, that's catastrophic. Finally, Wang Chunning, the armed police chief, commanding over 1 million officers. Now, Xi Jinping trusted this man very much. Xi had restructured the armed police out of fear of coup, removing it from state council oversight and placing it directly under the CMC. And he purged the previous generals promoted during the Jiang Zemin Hu Jintao era, and he installed Wang Chunning. Now, just to show how much Xi Jinping trusts this man, prior to leading the armed police, Wang had served as commander of the Beijing garrison from 2016 to 2020. Now he's purged. So think about it. 9 generals, all handpicked by Xi Jinping, all loyal, all toppled. In the past, these downfalls were only whispered rumors. Now they're official. Now, what I want to tell you next is what I think is the most striking, how the state media has treated this announcement. That's the most alarming part of this latest development. So the original announcement on Friday, it was said that the decision was approved by the party's central leadership and the CMC and did not mention Xi Jinping's name at all. The defense ministry basically held a press conference. So after the press conference, the defense ministry posted the news on its website at 5:15 p.m. And the title reads, as you can see on the screen, He Weidong, Miao Hua, and 7 other generals seriously violated discipline and are removed from the party and the military. Xinhua reposted the same story 20 minutes later, but they buried it. They hide it in some place on their website, and you can hardly find it. And then around 11 p.m., Xinhua published a second version with a new title. And that one says something like this. Defense Ministry spokesperson held a presser and answered questions about recent military affairs. Suddenly, Miao Hua and He Weidong's names disappeared from the headline. And the piece downplayed the purge by mixing it with unrelated issues like the South China Sea tensions. So it made a major event in the military sound like a Q&A session by the spokesperson. So that's on the Xinhua News. And then People's Daily. Well, People's Daily completely stayed silent first yesterday. Well, it's probably because they're a print media. But they could, if they want, they could still put something on their website. And today they printed only the modified Q&A version, right? So they printed this version, the one you saw. It's all about Q&A. On page 6 of its 综合版, I don't know what you call 综合版, the integrated page. Meanwhile, CCTV, right? One of the most important state propaganda machine. CCTV's primetime evening news completely ignored this earth-shattering event, both yesterday and today. It's the first time in CCP's history that Defense Ministry led Xinhua and People's Daily. Usually it's the other way around. So clearly the division between the CCP's propaganda system and the military is out in the open. So now here's the big question. So did Xi Jinping take down these generals himself, or did his opponent, Zhang Youxia, do it? I don't think Xi Jinping has the guts to take down this many of his own people. Even if he did, it would make him look very bad. And he has no reason to do it unless they went against him. But there's no way these 9 generals would rebel against Xi Jinping alone without the support of Zhang Youxia. It just doesn't make sense. And the biggest evidence to me is the split between the military media, or I should say between the defense ministry and state media. Because if this were Xi Jinping's move, state outlets like the People's Daily, the CCTV, would be all over it, right? But they're not. They muted the news and played it down, remember? I said that Xi Jinping still controls 95% of the propaganda machine, even though he only controls 10% of the military. So that's proof that this was not Xi Jinping's action. It was Zhang Youxia's doing. Okay, so now let's talk about, so why were they removed? Well, judging by the stern language in the announcement, it wasn't about corruption. It was political. It was clear that they were anti-party and when I say party, CCP, they were anti-CCP, they were anti-the PLA. They were involved in a political coup against the military's leadership, and that's not Xi Jinping, that's Zhang Youxia. And based on previous reports, after Xi Jinping fell ill during the Third Plenum last July, Zhang Youxia took control of the military. And when Xi Jinping recovered, his loyalists tried to help him regain authority, but failed. And these 9 generals were most likely the key players in that failed attempt.